Like most people from the 1990s or before, Sonic the Hedgehog was my favorite Sega Genesis game. I got into the series thanks to my mother. I'm serious, she was the one that introduced me to the Blue Blur, as well as other video games such as Super Mario World and some WWF games. Whenever my mother would pop in Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis console, I would watch her play and cheer on for her and Sonic. Although I do not remember so clearly, she did mention to me that I would be scared of the boss battles in Sonic. That I would curl up and hold my head whenever the boss music started up and Robotnik appeared. Even if I really was scared of him back then, I'm not afraid now. I think it might be because I was still a little girl at the time, but today I just push aside the music and kick some boss butt. I think that experience may also explain why I'm so into more modern music in video games, since the boss music in Sonic the Hedgehog was 16-bit music. Anyhow, I'll not bore you more with my past. Let me tell you about how my original fear tried to come back to haunt me. It all started when I was digging through my games in my shelf and I found my Sonic Mega Collection Plus game for my PlayStation 2. I thought about it and asked my little brother if he wanted to play something with me. He said yes, and I got the game put into the console before selecting Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I was getting my brother into Sonic, and though he didn't know a whole lot about him, he would still hold interest in the subject. Probably because his favorite character has to be Shadow. My brother wanted to play as Sonic, and so I dealt with playing as Tails. I do admit that I like Tails, but I normally enjoy playing as Sonic. We had a blast playing until our mother had come home to take my brother to his dad's house. He was upset that we had to stop, but I told him I'd save our progress and we could play more the next time I babysat him. I had our game saved at a good stopping point with him and watched him leave with our mother. I decided to go ahead and play another Sonic game on the disc and chose to play Sonic 1. As I played the game, I grinned as the feeling of nostalgia washed through me. I was able to get through Green Hill Zone just fine until the boss battle. I heard the music and just smirked and muttered, "So we meet again, fat man." However, the wrecking ball he used for this battle was not shown. I shrugged it off as a glitch and was able to defeat him with ease. Though there was a white flash appearing on the screen, and I blinked, wondering if it was another glitch. But I was wrong. The flash faded and Green Hill Zone was on fire once Robotnik fled the scene. After Sonic released the little animals that Robotnik held captive, the victory jingle went on, and I went on to the Marble Zone. I was a little confused as to what had happened, so I decided to save it and stop playing, thinking that my head was playing games with me. The rest of the day went by like normal until I took a break from getting my room organized. Without thinking about earlier, I decided to play my Nintendo GameCube and added in my Sonic Gems collection disc into the console. I played some Sonic CD and smiled as I was continuing where I had left off, which was Stardust Speedway. I knew I was going to get a bad future, because I had a hard time trying to get to the past to break the generators in the past levels and this level. I just kept going so I could get through the level, and then I got to the boss level where I need to race against Metal Sonic. I got Sonic speeding up and ready before the race started. I was able to defeat Metal Sonic, but instead of Metal Sonic falling off screen like he should be, he was stuck by the wall, trying to push through it. And Robotnik's laser beam destroyed Metal Sonic and made him shatter into pieces. I was confused as to why this happened, and knew I didn't add in any cheat or hack codes to this game. Robotnik's face was looking at the screen. He had a grin of evil before flying off, and I was able to continue on to save Amy. After saving my progress, I turned off the game, wondering why that had happened. My guess was that since the game was pre-owned when I got it, maybe someone added in a hack code to have Metal Sonic destroyed. Whoever did that either didn't like Metal Sonic at all, or wanted to add in something that may be a little more realistic. I shrugged before I went to finish up cleaning my room. The next day, my mother stayed home after not being able to sleep the night before for some odd reason. So I went about my day, doing a little job hunting, and returned home with my mother still trying to sleep. However, both of my cats were looking at my Sonic Mega Collections Plus game. When I reached for it, one of the cats slapped my hand away with her paw before hissing at the game. I was wondering why they did that. There was no spider or bug on it. I grabbed the spray bottle and squirted both cats to get away from the game, but they would not budge. Once my mom's door opened, the cats went away, and then I sighed, grabbing the game. My mother asked why they were growling, and I just told her that they were fighting some. It was best to tell her that, rather than just say that they were growling at a game. Once my mom went back to bed, I put in the game and started playing some Sonic 1 again. I started where I had left off, and went about through it until the boss fight. I was able to defeat Robotnik again, but then the flash on the screen appeared again, and the Marble Zone was all rusted and destroyed. with the exception of the containment that kept all those little animals locked away, leaving Sonic to get through and free the animals. I kept playing until I got to the intro of the final boss battle, but I saved where I left off so I could let myself calm down. I was worried that if both games were hacked, why Robotnik was made to be such a sadist. I stopped playing video games for the rest of the day to relax myself. I went on the computer to check my email for any replies for a job. Then I decided to research these strange hacks that I had been seeing in my games. I looked up codes first for the Game Shark, Action Replay, and Game Genie to see if there was anything in regards to the strange environments after the boss battles in Sonic 1 and the destruction of Metal Sonic in Sonic CD. I found nothing, sadly. I sighed some and went onto YouTube to see if I may have gotten a copy of some weird hack that might be considered infamous. Sadly, I found nothing as well on YouTube aside from hacks on changing the main character in Sonic 1 and adding in Sonic.exe into the mix. I know about Sonic.exe, and despite how much that I Am God picture freaked me out, I got over him in a week. I was still bothered by these hacks, but thankfully I knew someone who was the biggest Sonic the Hedgehog fan for the longest time. My boyfriend. I had messaged him on YouTube and let him know about what I had found on my Sonic games. I told him I was unable to get evidence of the scenes, but I would try when I'm able to. After a while, he messaged me back, saying, "Interesting. Maybe it could be a hack or possessed. But why are you so worried?" I let him know about how I used to be afraid of Robotnik, but after I typed that, I realized I was starting to become afraid of him again. But I didn't tell my boyfriend that. I also typed in that I wanted to figure this out or my mind may not be at ease for a long time, since stuff like this would be stuck on my brain until it was all solved. After a while, he messaged me back saying, "Alright then, I'll help you and see if I can find anything." I was glad I got some help with this. I started to look again on my own to see if I could find anything, or if I had overlooked these hacks. So far, neither I nor my boyfriend found anything. I sighed and stopped with the search for the day, feeling tired out. As I went to bed, I was starting to dream about finding myself in a place on fire, almost like Angel Island on fire from Sonic 3. I heard a sinister laugh and saw Dr. Robotnik floating down in front of me. I heard him speak. "So we meet again, little girl." I must admit that I'm glad I can add fear into someone. I tried to back away, really feeling fear striking my heart as I looked at the man. Robotnik laughed again and said, Now. It is actually an honor that someone once feared me. And now the fear is returning. Finally, I can stop being laughed at by just one girl, and be strengthened by her fear, and her fear alone." I shouted at him to get away from me, and tried to back away more, but I stopped at the edge, seeing lava below. I looked back at the Mad Doctor as he grinned evilly. "Do not worry. I will not kill you. I will just be more pleased with your panic and fear." He then pointed a laser gun at me with his finger on the trigger, and I screamed before I woke up in a cold sweat. I was right before. I was starting to become afraid of him again. I sighed and held my head, feeling the images of that dream engraved into my mind. I checked the time, seeing it was 6:30 a.m. My mother had already left for work, probably a lot more well-rested than yesterday. I decided to go check my YouTube messages and see if my boyfriend had found anything or not. He left me a message alright, but he said, "I was unable to find anything about a hack, but I did hear a rumor going about that someone had implanted a hack in one game of Sonic Mega Collections Plus. It's not confirmed, but you may have gotten it." I was confused, but understanding. I messaged him back, asking if there might have been another hack added, but to a Sonic Gems collection game. I didn't expect him to answer me right away, so I exited out of YouTube. Then I looked at my PlayStation 2 and my Sonic Mega Collection Plus game, seeing the cats growling at it again. I decided that in order to calm myself, I would defeat Robotnik once and for all. I was able to get over my fear before, but this time I needed to conquer it. I turned on the game and started where I left off. The final zone seemed darker, but I paid no mind to it. My goal was to defeat him and my fear of him. After about 5 minutes according to the time counter, I defeated Robotnik, but then the screen suddenly went black for a few seconds before his face showed up with him laughing evilly. "Do you think you can be rid of me so easily? You will never defeat me." His voice boomed through the speakers of the television, causing me to curl up like I used to, but I noticed that Sonic was right there on the left-hand corner of the screen. He was pointing to Robotnik, as if saying to attack him. I made a nod and had Sonic jump at Robotnik's face. Thankfully, Sonic never got hurt, and a loud "No!" echoed through the speakers. A flash of light appeared on the screen, taking me to the ending with Sonic running through Green Hill Zone, and all the little animals running and jumping happily. I felt relief washing over me as I smiled, but then I saw that Sonic had all the Chaos Emeralds, making me confused since I didn't reach all of the special zones. The ending and credits went on as normal, but when the ending screen appeared and showed Robotnik angry and stomping on the end title, I just laughed. I kept laughing, and Robotnik seemed to get angrier, stomping harder and harder. Once I could get myself to stop laughing, I said to the screen, "I conquered my fear this time. And yeah, I feel sad for you, since you were mostly comedy relief rather than the toughest villain ever. But using me as something to power you up was not a good idea to begin with." The screen then faded to black and back to the title screen. I saved the game and yawned, feeling somewhat worn out, but also tired from lack of sleep. I went to my room and saw my GameCube, feeling that I should also defeat Robotnik in Sonic CD, but I was too tired. I fell asleep on my bed, exhausted but pleased. After a few hours, I felt refreshed and relieved. I checked my messages on YouTube, and my boyfriend said he had found a hacking code where Metal Sonic would be completely destroyed if you beat him at Stardust Speedway in the bad future. I just simply smiled and told him thanks, feeling that I may not need to play the game just to see if my fear was completely conquered. However, I went to check my email and found an unknown sender with a subject line that was in Japanese. I looked up the translation on Google Translate, seeing it means, "You will fear me." I checked the message, seeing that the email was nothing more than glitched text, but the message was easy to read. "It will remain forever in my mind. This is not over. This is merely the beginning."